Okay folks, we're picking up with our weekly drawings. I've had a couple people ask for Jack Skellington from Nightmare Before Christmas, and since that is actually one of my favorite movies of all time, I thought that would be a pretty fun one to do for us today. So I've got my supplies here. If you picked up your art kit from school, then you should have all of these as well. I've got my sketchbook, my compass, a pencil with an eraser, and a permanent marker. These are the things I'll be using today. So Jack is a pretty good example of some exaggerated proportions because he has been made to look very long and very skinny because he is a cartoon character. So we're going to be working with some of those shapes to create this portrait of him. To start with, I'm going to use my compass just to sketch in his head. And I'm going to say probably right about here. The second little dot should be a good size. Just going to swing that around like so. If you really look at a picture of Jack, you'll see that his head's not actually a perfect circle. But I think this gives me a good place to start. So once I've got the circle, what I'm going to do is actually add on to it a little bit, because the sides of his head kind of come out just a bit. And if you've never seen The Nightmare Before Christmas, it's a stop motion movie, which means all the characters in it are actually very detailed puppets that have been carved out of clay and different materials. And every scene of the movie is a photograph of those puppets positioned in different ways, and then they place all of those photographs together to make this moving picture. It's a really great movie. Alright, once I've got that, I'm actually going to draw myself a line of symmetry here very lightly. What that does is it just breaks the head in half, because faces and even a skull like Jack are typically very symmetrical. It means they're the same on both sides, so this line just kind of helps me keep things even. I'm also going to go ahead and erase this little shape here, so I've got the actual head. And I might round things a little bit just to sort of place that. For his neck, I'm going to go ahead and sketch that in. It's really just a cylinder, very long and skinny. And I'm only going to draw a bust, which is going to be his head and shoulders. I'm going to sketch in a little circle for his tie, which is this sort of like a black cat. Little diamonds for the eyes. Little mouth. The ties of his bow are going to come way out. They're very big. We've got really nice organic shapes on Jack. Really nothing very geometric about him. It's a very organic looking creature. If you look at Tim Burton's work, Tim Burton was the designer for this movie. A lot of his work has this very organic feel to it. I'm going to sketch him where his chest would be, right about here, the lapels on his shirt, and just sort of square off where his shoulders would come in. Again, I'm not going to draw all of his body, just about the top half. Alright, now I'm going to come back up and I'm going to do his face. So Jack's eyes sort of take up the whole top half of his head. They're very big. We can call them eyes. I guess they're eye sockets. I'm just going to very lightly sketch in 2 circles. They're roughly the same size. Now, Jack is very expressive in the movie, and you can change the expression depending on how you draw the eyes. So if you, I'm going to come over to my page here. If you drew really round eyes like so, it might make him look really innocent or maybe surprised. If you wanted to draw eyes that were sad, you would angle them sort of up like this. Or an angry eye, or a devious sort of look, they would angle down instead. I'm actually going to change my eyes to look sort of like that. But you can see a big difference in the shape of those. Will change like the overall feeling or emotion that it looks like he's showing. So for this Jack, I want to go with that sort of the devious look, since he is the Pumpkin King. So we're going to angle it down. Now you can keep this curved. You don't really want a lot of straight lines on him. That more curved look is going to help emphasize the organic feel that goes along with this movie. Now, he is a skull, so he doesn't really have a nose, but he has a place where his nostrils would be. Little teardrops there. And then he's got this great big grin, like just goes from side to side on his face. Again, if you wanted to draw a different expression for him, instead of the smile, you might draw a big, like a frown, or sometimes maybe like an O for surprise. Like sometimes he's got his mouth sort of open like that. But I like the smile he's got here. And he's got these like stitches on his mouth. We're going to indicate with these simple, short lines. I'm also, now that I'm done with this, I've placed his facial features, I'm going to erase that line of symmetry. It was just a guideline. Don't need it anymore. On his clothes, he has, and I'm going to adjust the shape of that little cat tie, make it a little bit more. There we go. On his clothes, he's got these white lines. Now, if you have a white pen, then you could shade this all in black and then come in with your white pen, or a white colored pencil would also work. If you don't have that, then you might want to actually leave those areas white. So I'm just going to sketch them in. Again, think organic. You want kind of wavy, rough lines for him. That really reflects the nature of the movie and the nature of the character. Rough, sort of uneven lines. I almost think about it like bark on a tree, maybe. Might be a way to think about that. And these are just giving me guidelines so I know when I come in with my black marker, I'm going to leave these spots white. Again, it would look really cool if you have a white pen to come in with that white pen, but if you don't have one, then this will work as well. He also has this pinstripe on his clothes, sort of a diagonal line here. And then I'm going to switch directions for that on the other side. And just to let you know too, I am looking at a picture of him while I'm drawing this. This is not just coming out of my head. If you're trying to draw something, it's always a good idea to look up reference and have a picture of it there in front of you. That way you can see it and you know what you're drawing. That's a pretty good sketch. I think if I take my marker now and sort of fill in some of these black areas, it'll really make him pop. So I'm going to start here with the eyes. Also, I want you guys to notice something about my permanent marker. Look what happens on the other side. You can see that already. This is very thin paper. That's why I've got this folder underneath my paper, so that if the marker bleeds through, it's not a big deal. If you don't have something underneath your page, when you try to use your marker, you're probably going to wind up losing several pages of your sketchbook because that marker will just bleed right through. Also going to go ahead and give him a really bold outline with my Sharpie. Just going to go around these lines I drew. This is optional. If you'd rather use your pencil to fill that in, you know, go for it. Colored pencil, paint. It's your choice of medium. The last couple things I'm going to do here, first of all, I'm going to take my eraser and just erase any of these like stray pencil marks I can still see through my Sharpie. And just to add a little bit of visual interest to him, I'm actually going to do a little bit of shading, just a little bit with my pencil. So I would definitely see some value right underneath his head, like on his neck. So on a darker value, sort of a little value gradation right there. I'm also going to add in a little bit of shading right there along the eyes, kind of simulate like he's got brows that are coming down. Going to really emphasize this cool devious look he's got right here. Do just a little bit of shading along his mouth too. And in the nose area. And then just to tie it all off, I'm going to just take my pencil and do a little bit of texture around him. So I'm going to start with a vertical stroke here. So that's moving my pencil up and down. Right all around the edge here. Keeping that pretty loose. Well, one of the fun things about drawing something like Jack is, you know, it's Halloween. You can make things look a little more organic, a little more freeform. It's okay if they look a little weird because it's Halloween. Everything's kind of weird. Alright, then I'm going to switch directions, so I'm going to do what's called cross hatching. And I'm going to use this diagonal stroke. Again, it's really kind of loose. I want it to be a little darker, sort of where he is, right next to him. Because the darker value right next to the skeleton will make his face sort of stand out. And I'm going to do one more crosshatch. So we get this nice value, get a cool texture. Again, kind of stick to a direction. Stick to it. Now, if we really want to make him pop, I'm going to take white colored pencil if you have one, and you could do like some highlights, some really cool highlights on him. Because my paper, this particular sketchbook, is not really white. It's very an off-white, so any white areas that you do will actually show up pretty nicely. That's optional, just if you have a white colored pencil. And there he is, the king of Halloween. Make sure that you sign your work. And I would love to see any spooky skeletons that you draw. Thanks for watching, guys.